Hi, I'm Jim Stevens with Eureka Canada, and I'm here to show you some setup displays for some of our tents. Right now we're going to work on the Tetragon 5XT. The first thing you want to do after you make your purchase is take it home, pull the tent out of the bag, check for parts, set it up just to make sure everything's in good shape before you head out on your trip. What you're going to do when you unpack your tent out of the bag, the components that you're looking for: the tent body right here, tent fly sheet, bag of poles, and in the case of this one, we'll go through and set up. It'll have two main frame and two fly poles, a gear loft which will be fitted into the tent once it's up, and then a bag that will have your stakes, your guy lines, your printed instructions, and a little tube of sealant. Okay, once you've pulled out your tent, you've spread out the parts, and you've got some of your poles, you want to check for a perfect site. What you're looking for is level conditions, so there won't pool water in the case of rain. And secondly, you want to check for any sharp protruding objects that could damage the fabric. With the Tetragon series, XT series of tents for Canada, you'll have two poles that will make your main frame. We'll use them first, and then two smaller poles that will create your fly rod systems. The key to all of the pole assembly, and this applies to any tent, is right here at the ferrule inserts. They must be inserted all the way. If you only go partially, there's a very great chance that when you flex and put pressure on the frame, you could damage the poles. That is not covered by warranty, although it's repairable. So please, be it aluminum or fiberglass, insert the ferrules all the way. So what we're doing, we're just making those insertions here on the four poles, and then we'll be ready for the setup of the inner tent. Chosen your site, it's flat, it's going to have good drainage, it's protected from any sharp objects. You can choose at this time if you do have an old tarp or a piece of plastic cut to shape, or you can buy a floor saver that we offer. They can be laid down on the ground ahead of putting down the tent. They don't require a ground sheet, it just is going to give you longer life to the tent by stopping any extra abrasion that may occur. Anyway, once you've chosen your site, it's a simple process of getting the tent body and spreading it out in the desired location. If you're setting a tent up and it's extremely windy outside, when you're doing your setup, what you can choose to do is stake one of the corners down at this point in the direction that the wind is coming. We don't have a particularly windy day today for the setup, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways, and the wind seems to be coming a little bit out of the north, so I'll choose the appropriate corner. Just basically at the corners on this particular tent, it's a ring and pin. Just fit the stake into the ring and angle it about a 45-degree angle under the tent. Just showing you the close-up of the corners of the Tetragon tents, and you'll see that this is what we call the ring and pin. So the ring with the pin, and we'll explain what the pin does in a moment, but that system is well reinforced into the corner body of the tent, all four corners. What the ring is going to be doing, it'll go into the base of the ferrule of one of the pole ends, which are hollow, and that's how the connection from the corners of the tent to the frame is made. Just showing you as well that when you're doing the staking process, it's through this ring that I was talking about, and angling your stake on about a 45-degree angle as best you can into the ground that you've got. For some trips you may be going on, some of the parks, the ground could be a little bit firmer. Sometimes they're using the crushed gravel. Taking along a small hammer or a tent mallet is often a little bit of benefit, just to help you make your stake secure. As we talked earlier, we built our poles by inserting all the ferrules firmly and fully. Now what we're doing on the case of the Tetragon tents, as I showed you just previously, we've got the ring and pin in the corner, taking that, fitting it in to the base end of the pole, and then on the tent seam I follow up and I attach the first two clips to the frame. So a very simple process, following the seam up from the corner, clip to the tent. I do this because for myself, all the tents have to be able to be set up by myself easily. And if it's a challenge to do so, then I have to make design changes to the tent, or in some cases it doesn't pass the grade and the tent just doesn't go forward. So these tips are done for solo setup, but with two people it's still nice little tips to help you set it up without too much issue. So now I'm just reversing to the diagonally opposite corner, repeating the process. And this will create the first of the two hoops. Again, ring and pin into the base of the pole, follow up, attach the first two clips. So now what I'm going to do at this stage is do the same process for the remaining pole. Don't worry if this falls down on you, that's why you've clipped it in already. Ring and pin in the base of the pole, clip one, clip two, and now I'll go to the final corner. What I will do here, the pole's here, so I'll just rest that on my shoulder, flex the second pole. What you're starting to see is the tent take shape as we go. And clip one, clip two. What you can do at this point, it's a little easier to do it now than later. Take your shoes off if you wish, although my shoes are brand new and not dirty, so I can step into the tent, grab the crossover toggle and loop system, and make the tent connection. And the last step, very straightforward, attach all your remaining clips. You will notice that the tent doors are open. That is easier for takedown to have them open. Two reasons: it just allows the air to, when you're rolling the tent up, to move out of the tent faster. And secondly, when you're doing the step that I just did, you can just step in and make the attachment. We're almost done with the setup for the inner tent. Okay, and finally what I will do for to finish this off is I'll just stake out the two remaining corners of the tent. We're going to just touch base on some of the features of the inner tent, and this applies to all the Tetragon XT family in program, which we offer in a 2-person, 3-person, 4-person, the 5 here, and then an 8-person as well. So what you're getting with the whole series is, in the upper portion of the tent, it's a combination of no-seam mesh, and this is important. No-seams, if you've ever been bitten by no-seams, or sand fleas as they're also known, extremely small little insect, but can aggravate you to no end with their biting. In a lot of the open weave mesh found in some of the I won't mention brands, but screen houses, the no-seam mesh isn't used, and the no-seams just crawl right on inside. Low-cost tents would be the same. We will use nothing but a no-seam mesh in ours. So you've got that on both sides and on the roof panels. That's going to ensure good tent airflow for the tent during the summer months, what these tents are designed for. Fiberglass frames, and we use a specific diameter for the different size tents. Obviously thicker diameter as you go up in the height of the tent. The doors themselves, huge wide open doors, so the entry and access of the tent is very, very simple. And indoors, in the upper portion of the tent, that's where you position this. This is called a gear loft, and it's a great item for storing items that you really, one, don't want to lose, and two, that you don't want to break or step on. So your reading glasses or glasses in general, items of that nature. There are also down on both sides smaller accessory pockets for flashlights or books that you may want to have during the night. So I'm just going to clip this inside now. The 5XT that I'm in would be the first of the true stand-up height tents, and obviously easier for some of us to stand inside than others, but it's got a center peak height of approximate 6 foot. So even those of you who are taller, you'll still be able to stand up comfortably to be able to pull on your pants, etc. Next step, the inner tent's up, now we have to put on the fly sheet. So what I'm doing here is just, I place the fly on the ground upside down, so it'll have the coated side or the inside of the fly sheet upward, and I'm going to fit in and attach the two fly rods or ridge pulls to the tent. What you're looking for, above each door, at the ends of the zippers, you'll have these small pockets, and they're to fit in the end of the fly pole. You'll have the same if you kind of basically follow along a seam. You'll see one at the other door, same position. Flex the pole slightly to make the fit, and then you'll have two Velcro fasteners on the fly sheet that you'll want to affix to the pole. And we're going to repeat the process the second. This next part is arguably the hardest part of the whole setup. Not hard, but the hardest part. I'll show you it doing one person, but with two people, basically it will be getting the pole ends as I've got here, and the second person at the opposite end, just turning it, inverting it, and setting it down on the fly sheet. So what I'm going to do this basically the same thing, but do it by myself. Turn it up, over. Fly is kind of centered in position on top. Now what I'm looking for are these loops. These are the guy line loops. On the underside, again, we've got Velcro fasteners. They position themselves just below this clip on the frame. So you 1, 2, so they go below or between the first and second clips on all four corners of the tent. Obviously, if you're working with a second person, you're doing this all at the same time. Okay, and the last step, as far as the fly attachment goes, at the corners of the fly, you'll have a stretch cord with a hook. That same ring on the ring and pin system that we talked about earlier, you take the hook and simply hook it to the ring in all four corners. Final setup for the tent is going to be stretching out the vestibules, staking them down, and then at the sides of the tent as well. So what you've got on the side, and this is crucial, step that you really need to do, and when I walk around parks and I see tents set up, be it my own or other brands, and they haven't done this step, I cringe, because in the event of a rain, you're either going to have water issues inside, definitely going to have lousy ventilation. So you've got the cords, there's the guy lines attached to the lower portion of the fly. That's also been reinforced. Just put your stake in, stretch it out as best you can, and stake it out. What you're trying to do here is create a nice gap so there's a good distance, probably something in that size from the tent to the fly. Two things it'll do, it just sheds rain further away from the tent. In the case of a splash up, no chance of coming back inside the tent. And secondly, more importantly, it creates a nice airflow so the cooler air can come in underneath and travel out through the vents, which you'll see in a second on the vestibules. So now I'm just going to, we have these vestibules, both ends of the tent. It's a symmetrical design, so doors either side and the same vestibule system on either side. What I'm doing now, tent's up, sides have been staked out, taking the loop from one corner of the vestibule, stretching it as best I can, and staking it in. Again, here you're going through the loops. and trying to do it at that 45-degree angle. So you're going to have something that should look like this. You have corner vents here, little prop rod built into the fly. Just attach your Velcro, and that's what I was talking with the chimney effect. Cool air coming underneath the fly and the warmer air escaping out the top. What the vestibules will offer, obviously, is a protection to the door, so it's going to guarantee dry tent entry and some storage space for items that don't need to go inside the tent with you. You have some options with the vestibule as well. You can stake it as we've got it here, which allows you to access the tent through the zipper here, or in the case of fair weather, should you decide to do so, you can roll up the center portion of the fly just for nice and easy entry, fair weather use. And again, you would be doing this on both sides of the tent. So that's the one option that you've got. The other option that you have is you can choose. Some people might do this. If it's in particular, if it's an extremely rainy period, switch the position. So instead of staking it on the outside loop, stake it now on what would be the center panel loop. You now have the ability to come in from the corner. And why this is an advantage at times, if you just, as I said, experience a lot of rain, it's just easier to come in here, step inside to a larger protected area, and then peel off raincoats and such. So just the versatility of the vestibules. And finally, the vestibule walls here, should it be just absolutely gorgeous weather, which is what we all are hoping for, you can seal them off, you can roll this up, you can tie off the far side to make it wide open access on those warm, beautiful days. Just lastly, a few other features that all tents should have, not just the Tetragon series, be it a Eureka or any brand you're buying, and it reflects on the quality and the performance of the tent. Any exposed seam should have taping that's done at the factory. So where I'm pointing out here is the seam where the zipper flap is applied, and that's just showing you how the taping process to eliminate any water problems. And a couple other features are the positioning of the guy lines. These are these loops here, and in the case of this one, there's one on each pole, so 4 in total, and the guy line ropes are in the stake bag provided. Guy lines, it's crucial that they be positioned properly. This is well positioned here. Oftentimes you'll see them high up on the tent, and unless that's in conjunction with an elbow design in the frame, it's pointless. Because you can have it tied there, but that's not where the pole will flex in the case of a wind. It's going to be further down. So what you will want to do in a, you're in exposed conditions such as this site, or storms are imminent, or you're going to be away from your site for a period of time, use the guy lines, tie them off, and come out on a straight angle out and stake it down. If you anticipate real strong winds, you can actually use 2 guy lines per corner, doing it kind of in an inverted V pattern. Very important though if you experience winds or you're going to be leaving your site for a period of time. The other thing I point out here, or these locations here, we do with our Eureka Canadian tents in your stake bag. Have a little seam grip, a little tube with the applicator. The question we often get asked is, are the tents waterproof? And yes, they are. The fabrics are treated to a coating level to withstand a column of water up to 1.2 or 2 or 5 meters high, depending on the tent. However, I always tell my customers that you may experience little leakage, pin drip of water coming through. It might not ever happen, but I want you to be aware of it. And that'll occur at spots like here or here, where you have multiple layers sewn into the seam. Even though it's taped, there's the small chance of water working through. Don't be alarmed if that's all you've got. When the weather's dry, take out your seam sealant, apply it just on the about a 5 centimeter stretch along your seam, stitching, problem solved. So now you're going to do a walk around of the Tetragon 5 XT, and as I said earlier, this is one of a number of sizes available in Tetragon XT tents. There's the 2-person, 3-person and 4-person, as well as the 5 currently shown here, and then the larger 8-person, the 8XT. The only difference really as you go up in size is going to be the 8XT will have an internal room divider to make it a 2-room option. But otherwise they all will look somewhat the same as far as the setup. 2 main poles for the inner tent, 2 fly rods for the fly system, doors at either side, and vestibules on either side. With the tent, you're getting a heavier fabric floor. It's a 150 denier polyester, and then the fly sheet itself is a 75D polyester. These are both treated to a 1500 millimeter coating level, and what that is telling you is that the fabric is tested to withstand 1.5 meters of water before any penetration could occur. That's not going to happen in any rainstorm, and it's not going to happen should you spray a hose on it. The only time you could experience a leak would be if you set up on a puddle and stood on the fabric. That pressure enough could force some water through, but very, very unlikely. Bathtub floor design, so the seams of the floor are raised and then overlapped by the protection of the fly sheet. That's consistent throughout the Eureka program. In fact, that's something that Eureka was noted for in the early stages of the company. With all Eureka tents, they do come with a lifetime warranty against manufacturer defect. That does not mean that when they wear out, you get a new tent. What it means is if the tent has a defect that's premature from normal wear and tear, then we want to hear from you and work with you to get it corrected. But eventually, coatings will break down. Eventually, zippers will let go. That's all part of the normal process in the wearing of a tent. But with that said, you should get 10, maybe more. I've heard people who've had their tents for 25 to 30 years. Thank you. Oftentimes people ask, can I get the tent back in that bag? Well, now we're going to find out. But yes, you should be able to. So just reverse the process. Pulling out all your stakes, making all your fly to frame connections, loosening them all off. Again, if it happens to be windy, you can leave your stakes on the corners of the tent in to eliminate your tent possibly being blown around. Today I don't have that worry. Okay, stakes back in the bag. Off the fly. What I'll do with the fly sheet, I'll grab the points, tie up, and if I let wind, I'll let the wind blow the fabric, but I'm just trying to get it down to about the width of the pole bag, or of the tent bag. This one up at this point. Again, looking at the tent bag kind of for direction as to how big I want my roll to be, or how wide in particular. Step 1. Step 2, the inner tent. Pop the rings out. Okay, all the poles into the pole bag. And I'll do the same thing as I did with the fly, folding this to get down to a size that will fit into the pole bag. Some people will ask the question, because years ago stuffing was recommended for packing a tent. Not so much anymore. That had to do with a coating issue that's been long since perfected. I prefer this method. I just find it a little simpler, a little easier, and for me, just like a little cleaner process in the whole thing. So I'll do it like that. You notice I'm rolling out towards the open door. And much like just a basic roll-up system. Tent fly on the inside. And as I'm rolling, trying to keep the roll as tight as possible. There are ties that I have over there, but even without, I can get this tent back into its tent bag single-handedly. And even room, as I should have, for the stakes. There you go.